What if love demanded you disappear? Rain tapped lightly on the kitchen window, matching the rhythm of Elena Carter's pulse as she stared down at the blinking number on the bathroom scale. Again, 174, the same as yesterday, the same as last week. Her breath caught in her chest, as if holding it might change the number. It didn't. From the hallway she heard the unmistakable click of polished dress shoes on hardwood. Michael was home. She pulled her robe tighter just as he entered, still in his navy suit from work, phone in hand, scrolling. He didn't look up. 6 weeks, he said flatly, like he was announcing a deadline at a board meeting. The company gala's in 6 weeks. You need to lose that weight before then. Everyone's going to be looking at us. It landed like a slap, though his tone was smooth, matter of fact. Eleanor didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the kitchen floor tiles, tracing the grout lines, one after the other, like maybe they could lead her to a version of herself he might still love. She nodded, barely perceptible. He didn't notice. He walked past her, dropped his briefcase on the dining room table, and disappeared into his office. She stood frozen. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to ask him who everyone was, and why their opinion mattered more than her spirit slowly breaking in front of him. But she didn't. That kind of fire had burned out years ago, smothered under a pile of careful silences and swallowed pain. Instead, she turned toward the fridge and opened it. Inside, kale, almond milk, cucumber water, all things she hated, all things he insisted on. She closed it again. Eleanor touched her stomach through the robe. It was soft. It was hers. It had carried life, even if that life never stayed. She remembered those tiny heartbeats on the ultrasound, the flicker of joy, the grief that followed. Michael never spoke of those moments, only what she used to look like before. Outside, the rain fell harder now. Eleanor walked back into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. A small, elegant box sat there. She opened it. A dress, red, fitted, size 6. A sticky note inside. Just imagine how great you'll look in this. The silence inside her chest cracked like glass. She clutched the dress, not because she wanted to wear it, but because she couldn't decide whether to bury it in the back of the closet or burn it. Tears welled up, hot and unwelcome. She hadn't cried in front of him in years. She wouldn't start now. She whispered, barely audible, "You don't even see me anymore, do you?" He didn't answer. He wasn't even in the room. Just like always. A former teacher, now stay-at-home wife, Elena once radiated joy. She met Michael in college. Charming, ambitious, persuasive. They married young, full of idealism and grand plans. He used to write her poems in the margins of his textbooks. She used to wear yellow every Tuesday, just because he said it reminded him of sunshine. Elena had dreams, tangible ones. She wanted to open a school that felt like a home, a place where awkward kids could feel brilliant, where empathy was taught like math. But when Michael landed a job in finance, and they moved states for opportunities, those dreams were put on pause, then postponed, then erased. At first, she told herself it was a team decision. That's what partnership was. But somewhere between building his resume and losing her name tag, she became a silent passenger in his life. 2 miscarriages in 4 years left her shell-shocked. She cried alone in the bathroom while Michael threw himself deeper into work, traveling more, staying late, coming home with quiet pity and louder critiques. "You'd feel better if you were healthier," he'd said once, after seeing her in a maternity top she hadn't been able to part with. She thought he meant emotionally, but he handed her a meal plan. She shrank in small ways, skipped breakfast, switched to herbal tea, weighed herself obsessively. She was no longer living for herself, only surviving through performance. The Elena who once danced in the living room to 90s R&B was now a woman who flinched when her husband walked into the room. Still, she performed her roles. Dutiful wife, warm hostess, picture-perfect +1. She stopped buying books, stopped wearing red, stopped speaking up when she disagreed. Once a month, she'd sit across from her mother, Deborah, over Sunday lunch. Deborah's gentle sighs spoke volume. "I raised a firecracker," she said once, cupping Elena's hand. "But you walk like you're afraid of being seen." Elena didn't answer. She didn't know how. Her lifeline came in the form of Tasha, her oldest friend, bold, confident, unapologetically herself. Tasha had struggled with body image too, but owned every curve like it was earned. She ran her own therapy practice and wore crop tops like armor. "You used to shine," she'd said once, looking Elena in the eyes. "Now you just reflect him." Tasha encouraged her to eat what nourished her, not what punished her, to move for joy, not guilt. "Your worth isn't tied to how flat your stomach is," she said. "You're not a project." Elena wanted to believe her. She really did. But Michael's world was louder. The corporate parties, the immaculate wives with blank smiles and slender frames, conversations about juice cleanses and cycling retreats. Eleanor would sip water and nod along, stomach clenched in anxiety, trying not to be the one they pitied. At home, Michael was distant, always preparing for the next big deal. He praised appearances, not efforts. "You'd be stunning if you toned up," he said once, brushing past her like she was furniture. She started avoiding mirrors, photos, intimacy. But late at night, after he'd fallen asleep to market news podcasts, she'd lie awake, remembering who she used to be. The girl who taught kids to write poetry, who cried watching Pixar movies, who never asked for permission to take up space. One night, she scrolled through old photos, her in oversized glasses, laughing, hair wild, her in a sundress at a school talent show, arms wrapped around smiling students. And then, her in a hospital bed, holding a sonogram to her chest, tears in her eyes, pain gripped her chest, deep and unforgiving. That was her. That was her. She wasn't made to be invisible. That night, Eleanor stood in front of her bedroom mirror. The house was still. The rain had started again, soft and steady. She took off the robe. She stood, vulnerable and unhidden. The stretch mark, the full hips, the gentle curve of her arms, her eyes rimmed with quiet sorrow, but still holding light. "This body," she whispered. "This story. It's mine." She didn't feel powerful yet, but for the first time in years, she didn't feel ashamed. It was the beginning of something. 2 weeks before the gala, Michael came home with a shopping bag from an upscale boutique, sleek, minimalist branding, just like his apartment used to be before they married. He placed the bag on the bed without a word and walked off, already on his phone. Elena, mid-fold with laundry still warm from the dryer, looked at the bag like it was ticking. Inside, crimson silk, size 6. Her breath caught. She held the dress up, beautiful, elegant, and impossibly small. Inside the tissue paper was a cream-colored note card in his precise handwriting. "Just imagine how great you'll look in this." Her hands trembled. Size 6. She hadn't been a size 6 since before her miscarriages, before her body broke open for life that never stayed. The dress wasn't a gift, it was a test. She folded the dress back into the bag and set it down on the floor. She didn't want to see it, didn't want it seeing her. In the bathroom, she collapsed onto the cool tile floor and cried, not just for the dress, but for all the things she'd given up, hoping to be loved enough to stay. Michael didn't knock. That night, as he snored softly beside her, Elena stared at the ceiling and felt something inside her shift. It wasn't rage. It was quieter, more enduring. It was clarity. She didn't announce anything, not yet. She searched online in the early hours and booked a therapist named Dr. Owens. She didn't tell Michael. She dug out her old journal, dusty, with petals from a flower she couldn't remember pressing inside, and began to write again. The words weren't pretty. They were raw and unfiltered, but they were hers. She started walking, not for cardio, not for weight loss, just to breathe. The air tasted different, like a secret she didn't want to share just yet. Her first therapy session was online. Elena nearly backed out twice, hovering over the leave meeting button. But when Dr. Owens asked, gently, "What brings you here?" Eleanor exhaled and said the truest thing she'd said in months. "I want to feel like I matter again." They worked slowly, tiny steps, naming things, grief, loneliness, guilt, naming herself. For the first time, she said aloud, "I've been surviving for years. I want to learn how to live again." She changed how she ate, not the food but the purpose. She made meals she liked, sweet potatoes roasted in olive oil, plantain stew her mother used to make, banana bread with too many chocolate chips. She played music again while cooking, Nina Simone, India Ari, songs she used to sing to herself in the car. One night, she looked at the dress hanging in the closet. It still didn't fit. She laughed, a full, unfiltered laugh that startled her cat and startled her even more. Michael started noticing. "You're different," he said one morning. "I'm healing," she said. He narrowed his eyes. "Are you taking medication or something?" She smiled, the way someone smiles when they've stopped asking permission to exist. "Just finding my voice again." He didn't smile back. He began asking more questions. subtle digs disguised as concern. You've been distracted lately. Are you okay? Is this about your hormones? She knew what it was. Panic, control slipping from his fingers. So she gave him what he needed. Still cooked, still kissed his cheek. But beneath that surface was a growing rebellion. One rooted not in anger, but in truth. She started leaving the house more often, reached out to her sister, whom she hadn't spoken to in almost a year, after Michael dismissed her as too opinionated. She reconnected with a former student who was now a teacher herself, and called Eleanor the reason I found my purpose. That message made Elena cry all over again. But this time, it was cleansing. She stopped hiding the mirrors. She didn't try the dress on again. The day before the gala, Michael stood in the doorway holding the dress. So, are you wearing this? She looked at him calmly. No. A beat of silence. Why not? She didn't raise her voice, didn't cry, just said, because it doesn't fit, and I'm done shrinking for anyone. He stared at her, and for the first time in years, she didn't flinch. Elena's eyes are different. Not colder, not harsher, just steadier, focused, present. She's not as quick to apologize when Michael walks in and sighs about something she forgot to do. She doesn't jump up to greet him at the door anymore, doesn't rush to fix his plate, doesn't ask about his meetings. She simply exists in the room, peacefully, like she belongs there. Michael notices. At first, he dismisses it. A mood, a phase. But the change doesn't fade. It settles, deepens. Elena's silences no longer feel timid. They feel intentional. You've been distant, he says one night, watching her across the table. His fork pokes at his chicken, untouched. She raises an eyebrow. I've been breathing. He scoffs. That's cute. Is that from your therapist? She doesn't answer. 2 nights later, he says it. You know, I miss the old you, the one who used to care. You've let yourself go. Emotionally, I mean. It's like you've checked out. Eleanor puts down her glass. I haven't checked out. I've checked in. With myself. His jaw clenches. Maybe I need someone who inspires me again. She flinches. Not because it's true, but because it's meant to wound. That night, she tells Tasha everything. They sit in the car outside a late-night diner, coffee cups between them, rain streaking the windshield. I can't do it anymore, Elena whispers. Then don't, Tasha says. You don't need to burn yourself down to keep a man warm. I'm not ready to leave. Tasha nods. Then stay, but don't lose yourself trying to keep him happy. Elena goes home quiet but determined. She's still in the storm, but she's holding an umbrella now. Then it happens. One morning, Michael is pacing in his office on a speakerphone call, unaware she's in the hallway. Look, man, I don't know. She's just not inspiring anymore. Lazy, unattractive. I come home and it's like I don't even recognize her. Her stomach drops. He laughs at something the other man says. A harsh, cruel sound. One she's never heard him use before. She steps back into the bedroom, heart pounding. She waits until dinner. They sit in silence for most of it. Then, quietly, I heard you on the phone this morning. Michael looks up, brows furrowed. What are you talking about? You called me lazy, unattractive. His eyes shift. You're imagining things. There it is. Not denial, dismissal. You always do this, she says. Her voice doesn't rise. Make me question what I know I heard, what I know I felt. I think you're overreacting, he says, calmly, smugly. Maybe your hormones are off. It's like watching someone flip a switch. Only this time, she's the one doing it. She stands, walks away, doesn't argue. She doesn't need to prove the truth. She journals that night. A single sentence. I am not crazy. I am not invisible. She texts Tasha. You were right. Tasha replied. You're not broken. You're waking up. In therapy, Eleanor confesses something she's never said aloud. I think I've been afraid of him for years. Not physically, just afraid to be fully myself. Dr. Owens nods. Because being fully you was never safe. That stays with her. She starts changing things in the house. Subtle, quiet. Rearranges the furniture. Replaces the framed photos. Removing the one from the gala 4 years ago, where she was underweight, smiling on command. In its place, she frames a picture from college. Her and Tasha on a hiking trail, sunburnt and laughing. She wears colors again. Buys a pair of red shoes. The same shade as the dress Michael bought. But this time, they're hers. Michael senses her slipping. He starts hovering, making grand gestures, suggesting weekend getaways. She smiles and nods, but her eyes are elsewhere. She's already begun to build the exit, not out of spite, out of necessity. Because this slow erosion of self, has to end somewhere. And it ends with her choosing to survive, not as his wife, but as Elena, whole, unapologetic, free. Elena steps out, not in the dress Michael bought, but in a bold, deep red gown she chose. It hugs her curves without apology. Her hair is down, wild and soft, just the way she used to wear it before she started trying to look polished. She walks with ease, her posture unbothered by the weight of judgment. She's radiant, confident, whole. Michael waits by the car, adjusting his cufflinks. When he sees her, his face flashes with something, surprise, maybe even awe. But he recovers quickly, offering a tight smile. "That's not the dress I bought." "No," Eleanor replies. "It's better." At the gala, the grand ballroom sparkles with chandeliers and soft jazz. Michael moves through the room with his usual self-importance, but eyes follow Eleanor, heads turn, conversations pause. Even the wives, the polished ones, offer compliments. "You look incredible," one of them says, genuine. "Is this really your wife?" another man mutters to Michael, and it doesn't land the way he expects. Michael laughs too quickly, pulling Eleanor close, trying to reclaim her like property, but she steps gently away. Then comes the moment. The host for the night takes the stage and unexpectedly invites attendees to speak about their connections to the community foundation being honored. Eleanor is nudged forward by someone at her table, an older woman who liked her answer to a simple question about teaching. She hesitates, then walks to the podium, heels clicking like punctuation marks. She speaks, voice steady and open. "I used to teach before I forgot how to use my own voice. I used to think strength looked like perfection, but I've learned it looks like honesty and choosing yourself, even when you're scared." The room stills. Applause rises like a wave. Michael is frozen, pale. Then the twist. His boss approaches Elena after the event, grinning. "We're starting an education wing for the foundation. You ever think about getting back into teaching?" Elena blinks, a beat. Then she smiles. "Yes, I have." Michael can't speak. He's watching everything he controlled unravel. Because she didn't fight him, she outgrew him, right there in front of everyone. Back home, Michael exploded. "You embarrassed me!" He slammed the door behind him, pacing the living room like a caged animal, voice rising with every step. "You hijacked the whole night, talking like that, dressing like that. You made me look like a damn fool." Elena set her clutch down on the entryway table and looked at him, steady and unshaken. "No," she said calmly. "I saw myself for the first time, and I refused to stay invisible." The words were gentle, but they cut clean. His face contorted, caught somewhere between shock and rage. "Don't do this, Elena. You don't want to ruin everything we've built." She turned fully to him, her voice unwavering. "Michael, we didn't build anything. I held everything up while you stood on top of it." He snapped back with another insult, harsh, bitter, but she had already tuned him out. She walked to the bedroom, collected the essentials without ceremony, and packed a small bag. An hour later, she stepped outside, her heels tapping a final goodbye on the hardwood floors. No yelling, no begging, just quiet strength. The front door closed behind her like the end of a long, painful chapter. In the following weeks, Elena moved in with Tasha. They had coffee barefoot on the patio each morning, laughing about nothing and everything, rediscovering the rhythm of their friendship. Elena's smile started returning in pieces, first a flicker, then full light. She began working part-time with the foundation, then transitioned into a full-time role. She designed creative learning programs for underfunded schools and found herself again in the process. Her hands moved excitedly when she talked about work. Her eyes gleamed with purpose. She bought colorful notebooks. She filled them with ideas. She called her sister, reached out to friends she hadn't seen in years. Slowly, her world widened. Her laughter came back, not the polite kind, but real, rich laughter that echoed and lingered. One evening, sitting alone on a bench under a quiet sky, Elena realized she hadn't thought about Michael all day. It felt like breathing clean air for the first time. That night, she checked her email. There it was, his name, a long message filled with apologies and fragile attempts at remorse. "I miss you," it read. "Can we talk?" She didn't reply. The next day, flowers arrived, white roses, her least favorite. She left them outside the building with a sticky note that simply read, "Wrong address." She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't waiting for him to understand or change. She had stopped performing. She was living now, fully, freely, and on her own terms. And that was the most powerful answer of all. Elena stands before her classroom of students, vibrant and alive. Her voice carries with warmth, her energy calm but certain. The classroom is filled with the sound of pencils scratching against paper as her students work on their personal essays, stories that reflect who they are and who they want to become. On the board behind her is a quote in bold letters: "Your voice is your power." One of the younger girls looks up from her paper, curiosity lighting up her face. "Miss Carter, why do you always wear red now?" The room quiets slightly, students pausing to hear the answer. Eleanor smiles, not rushed, not rehearsed, just honest. "Because I used to think I had to shrink to be loved," she says. "Now I know. I'm enough, just like this." There's a beat of silence, the kind that means something just landed. Then slowly, the students return to their writing. Eleanor watches them, her heart steady. There's no bitterness in her chest, no lingering ache. What she feels now is space, room to be herself, to grow, to guide, to speak without apology. After class ends, she tidies the desks, humming quietly to herself. The red fabric of her dress moves with each step, bold and unapologetic, just like the woman wearing it. She doesn't think about him anymore, not in anger, not in longing. What he took no longer defines her. What she found, peace, purpose, and herself, matters more. Her life is no longer about proving anything to anyone. She's just living fully, and that is enough. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.